I'm Danger Boy. I worked at WRDU 106 and 96 Rock for well over a decade combined.
So I'm Tommy McAllister, born and raised here in Raleigh. This is a pretty kind of special venue for me. It's the first place I actually ever really went to a club show.
I'm Imani, and this is what's your name?
Frederick. She don't know me. You taking her back to 98 and to tell her what she thinking about.
My name is Mac, and my first show at the Ritz was Interpol.
I'm Darian Cruz from Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
And I'm Angie Cruz from Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Yeah. And we have a ton of great memories of the Ritz.
My name's Nick Sovich. I'm a bar manager and bartender here at the Ritz. But before that, I was a big fan of coming to this place. First came here probably in about 1997 or so. I was around 15 years old. Didn't have a car, obviously. Wasn't old enough to drive. So it was a struggle to get here. So I had to be creative. Started investing my extra money in getting here by buying that second ticket to the show and finding an older kid with a car to get me here. And this was definitely one of our favorite clubs. I've saw a ton of awesome shows here over the years. Got a few ticket stubs to prove it and a lot more that I wish I still had. One story in particular that I want to share with you guys, it was probably around 99, 2000. It was a Napster sponsored show, if that puts it into perspective on time frame.
First time I ever came out here was in July of 2000 for the Limp Bizkit Back to Basic tour with Cypress Hill, and it was quite an adventure.
It was a free show. It was announced maybe a day or two in advance. It was really a pop-up kind of deal.
Probably 96 Rock we were listening to at the time, and they said, hey, Limp Bizkit's coming to the Ritz. We're like, wow, we got to get out there for this.
There's a line of kids, literally from the ticket box office all the way around the backside of the building for the better part of the day.
Yeah, we came out here at like 5 o'clock in the morning the day of the show, stood outside on the staircase with thousands of other people waiting to get a wristband just to come back later on that evening to come to the show. But it's probably one of the best high school memories of my life.
The Limp Bizkit at their height in the late 90s, they had us install a chain link fence from the stage all the way to the floor to the ceiling. I don't know if it was to keep them out or us out.
Fred Durst stops the show and sort of points up to the rafters of the crowd and says, "What is this guy doing?" Just completely stops the music, and somehow this guy, I don't know if it was from the balcony or from shimmying up the pole in the center of the venue, but this guy is basically hanging from the rafters like an American Ninja Warrior, just dangling there, shimmying around a little bit. And I looked up and I was like, oh my God, like, this guy's gonna die. Eventually he works his way to the support beam, shimmies his way down to a reasonable distance, and then drops into the crowd and disappears, shortly to be removed by the event staff. But man, it's one of those moments like you never forget. Even though I didn't see him get up there, man, I saw him up there, and it's one of those, those moments you just only get at a live show.
It's a story you tell your grandkids about.
Thinking back to it, I came here a couple weeks ago for Juicy J, and I walked in here and I saw all these kids, and they're like 15, 16, 17 years old. I'm 31 now, and I'm looking at these kids and I'm like, that was me 15 years ago, and it was really hard for me to believe it, just sitting there looking at them.
We seen the Fugees in, what was it, 98?
98.
I was just here. He was on stage, so.
Prize pulled me on stage. We was in the front, and I guess our energy, cause we was younger then.
Just hype.
And Prize pulled a friend of mine up. So when he got on stage, I'm standing there, I'm like, pull me up. Then I guess Wyclef, he came and pulled me up. And we just sat up there while they did the rest of the remaining of the song. I kept dancing. I thought I was performing then.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start off with the big story, the main one I know that we're here for. We had some mutual friends that had invited us to go to a show. It was kind of a last minute thing. We met up with our group of friends. I had actually never met her before, so we were there at the show, having a great time. We didn't even have time to really talk before the show because it was just kind of everybody was running, trying to get in, get a good spot. So we were all fighting for the front. We were in the front. We were pretty close up to the stage. Awesome show. Basically afterwards, when we actually finally got to speak, I kind of noticed her, in the crowd. I was like, I gotta talk to her for the show. So I made sure that happened. We ended up hanging out in the parking lot there, talking for a while, and I was just blown away. I was like, I have to get to know this girl again. So we kind of stayed in touch. As a matter of fact, on the way home that night, I told a friend that I was riding home with, I was like, that girl that I met at the show, that's I'm gonna marry that girl. That's it. And I remember telling him, he thought I was crazy, and it was probably a crazy thing to say, being I'd known you about 20 minutes, but I was just convinced.
And you were like 17
I was
years
17 years old. I was 17 years old. You were 16?
16.
Yeah, I mean, we were children. But it was awesome. It was just, I knew it was an instant thing. And now we've been married 12 years, going on 13 years. And this is where it started, here at the Ritz.
You still come back? And
Yeah,
see
we
some
just
great
came.
shows?
We just came and saw Interpol.
Yeah.
Like a month ago, 2 months ago. It's a great show. We've seen a ton of great shows over the years. This was basically the place to come to see really the bigger acts. Maybe not like the stadium level acts yet at that point, but either the ones that were getting to that point in their career, or sometimes doing their warm-up tours before they hit the big stadiums. In the summer they'd come through and play the Ritz. It's bigger than like the Cradle or something like that. One of the smaller venues where you can still draw a big crowd. So we saw some great bands over the years.
Still getting great acts in here. You come see some of the biggest acts possible in a venue that's gonna put you right up there near the stage, regardless of where you are. It's not like going to a stadium and being 100+ yards away from stage. You're close here, and it's probably one of the greatest things about coming to a venue this size.
Bands I've done in here range from bands on their way up to bands that were already Hall of Fame material. Dave Matthews, when he was still playing the Southeast circuit, he was playing in the Ritz. That's where he built his reputation, was around here. He played rooms like this. Yeah, Snoop Dogg almost caused a riot in this place, for sure. Showtime was supposed to be 11 o'clock or something, and dude didn't bother to roll up into the place until about 1 a.m. And by then, man, everybody was uptight and restless and ready to go. And then when he did get here, he only did about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, and then took right back off. But Jim Rose Circus Sideshow opening for Megadeth, then the guy's taking darts to the back and eating light bulbs and stuff. I mean, you can see almost anything in here, really. Yeah, the Foo Fighters, I totally have a signed Foo Fighters flyer from when they played here in 1996. I mean, that was the first album. They were on their way up. And Tool, Maynard has to be one of the weirdest dudes that's ever been in this building, probably. And that was in 1994. I mean, that was, right when Undertow was blowing everybody's minds. It's right on the cutting edge. I mean, it's still going. You got your Humphreys McGee playing here, selling the place out. You got Modest Mouse. That guy Johnny Marr was in the Smiths, y'all. I mean, y'all know who that is? I mean, that's a Hall of Fame guy who's been in this building in the last couple of months. I mean, and honestly, just because I've never heard of All Time Low doesn't mean they're not going to sell the building out either. I'm still learning because the bands are still coming.